All right. So for the first item here, I just wanted to make sure that I called out with the team some changes I made to our priorities. Most notably, I'm hearing from customers increasingly that vulnerability scanning is a key purchase decision, and that's something that we need sooner rather than later. So I really wanted to find a way to move that up before we had planned that like way out. It was going to be like 6 months from now before we got around to it. So I pulled that up into the backlog list, and I also moved a few items down because of that. If you have questions about those changes, feel free to talk about them with me, but just wanted to call out those changes here.
So one question I had, I know we have it in the notes, and thanks for answering in advance, Sam. I didn't see it till just now, but thank you. But verbalizing, so the vulnerability scanning one, I was looking for more detail in the epic, and we'll want to plan for time in the schedule to discover, validate, and then decide on which open source project or projects we want to leverage. And then we've already done a research spike, it looks like. You want to verbalize the notes on that?
Yeah, I don't have requirements in that epic yet, again, because we were not planning to do that for 6 months or so. So I just barely moved that forward, and it's still in the design state, right? So it will definitely have requirements by the time we move it out of design, but it's still on my backlog of things to do. The initial plan was to use Claire or Clar and just leverage the scanners that are on the secure side and have those run against containers in production. But as long as really the goal here is to be able to do a package scan and compare that against known vulnerabilities. But again, I'll add in requirements there in more detail later.
Is it packages?
That would just be the first start.
Is it packages and configuration, or just packages?
So for this, again, trying to take things a little bit more iteratively, and I think Tiago suggested doing like a port scan as well. This initial effort would really just be packages. So starting with a basic package listing with the versions and comparing that against known vulnerabilities, which I believe is what, I forget if it's Claire or Clar or both. I get those two mixed up, but
they both.
I think they both handle that pretty well.
If you talk Claire with a K, it's our wrapping of it, and Claire with the CLAIR is the upstream project, but they both write.
It'd be
Okay,
interesting to
thanks
see,
for that clarification.
Is it just, I know we're many months out, but it jumps out as this would be a case where perhaps Defend will be creating vulnerabilities rather than alerts. Like this feels like a—
Yes, absolutely.
It will. Okay.
No, this will result in a creation of a vulnerability.
Makes sense. Cool. No, thanks for all the updates. The only other question I had, and is I just saw on the list, not the changes that Sam that you made on the priorities, but in the list we have Alan listed as primary on one of the items. I think it's a small one, fixing a bug. So it's priority 3. Are we planning to have Alan do that, or have somebody else do that? Since Alan moved
I can answer that, Wayne. He was already doing it before we switched, and he wanted to stay on it, so I let him. Okay. It's taking a little bit longer than expected. He might be having trouble getting to it, so thanks for the reminder. I should ask him. I'll check with him if he still thinks he's got bandwidth, and if not, I'll reassign. One thing, Sam, just to call out as well, the change in priorities, the Falco sidecar installation with active response, that's now like way down. It was kind of up there. Yep. On the bright side, it's well scoped, and it's got it's a good candidate for community contributors. So we'll see if we can promote that. If somebody wants to pick that up.
Yeah, that's a good one to call out. That's something we definitely want to have done and want to do. Moving it down on the backlog is not any indication that we don't want to do it anymore. It's just we have 2 developers and a lot of priorities, so it's a balancing act. Okay, so let's see. I think Tiago, you have the next item.
Is that 1C about the demo?
Yes.
Cool, thank you. So we've taken up a challenge this iteration of delivering the policy UI functionality. It's a lot bigger than our velocity. It's bigger than anything we've delivered before. But Arthur and Zamir felt up to the challenge. I am getting concerned now that helping with the demo is taking significant time from Zamir. And I'm wondering, so one, we were already taking into account, yeah, that's getting in the way, but I'm wondering if it's more efficient if we could bite the bullet, Wayne, and I guess that's a question for you, and dedicate Zamir, let Zamir finish the work and then hand it over to Philippe. Would that be a more efficient way to go about it?
I'm sorry, Tiago. I lost the train there. On which one?
Sorry, yeah, I rented a bit. So basically, should Zamir do the demo installation for Philippe and hand it over? Is that more efficient?
It'd be better if Philippe does it, but with the amount of back and forth, it may be better for Zamir to accelerate that. I'd say ask them. One thing is that Zamir doesn't have access to the clusters at the same level that Philippe does. And now Philippe doesn't manage that. It's actually Nico, one of our users, who does. He created the environment up at Azure. So Nico's on vacation this week, but he's still watching things. Unfortunately, I wish he was actually really taking vacation. But I asked Nico to grant Zamir access, give Zamir access, the same access that Philippe does to the environment. That might help as well. We are recording that demo mid next week, and like every day, we make 5 steps forward and 1 step back. So we're making good progress. There's that 1 step back where Philippe tends to get roadblocked. Like he tries really hard and he doesn't know what to do next and needs help. But we are making great progress. So the demo's next week, the recording next week. So by then, it's somewhat time boxed from that perspective. And if we can't get something to work, we'll probably just remove it from the demo. And that'll be okay. But I'm definitely very cognizant of Arthur and Zamir's time working on helping Philippe with that demo versus creating features for customers.
Yeah, it's definitely slowing us down now. So I'll take that. I'll take that action to ask if we can do that.
Okay,
thank you.
No, it's great question.
Okay, and then I have 2 items here for planning breakdown. Both of these are relatively small. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we can talk through these. Let's see here. Okay, so the first one is very small, but I wanted to break it out as a separate item because we already put our initial alerts MVC through planning breakdown and refinement and everything. So again, I broke this out. It's just an issue, not an epic, because it is so very small. It's not really a feature that would be tracked as at the epic level. For this, all we're really doing is just reorganizing these tabs. So we want alerts to be the first tab that users land on. We actually do want to we want to have an overview tab or an initial dashboard at some point in the future. But the reality is that our current overview tab doesn't have a lot of really deep data, and especially for users who are triaging these alerts on a daily basis, that's likely to be the first tab that they actually want to see. So all this does is it reorders it a little bit. It moves alerts up to the front. And this new statistics tab is actually the old overview tab. It's just renamed to statistics, at least for now. So any questions about this issue? I'm hoping this one is relatively small.
Arthur, anything?
No, I'm good.
The only thing to point out, I think it's kind of obvious, but I'll ask anyway, is that this depends on the alert dashboard, right? We can't do that before that one.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, it kind of goes with it. But again, I didn't want to muddy the waters here where we're already in the middle of refinement for that one. So I broke it out as a separate item.
Okay.
So if we're good on that one, I'll move that one into refinement as well.
I might pull that issue into the Epic because it'll probably get done at the same time. I'll talk to the developers.
Okay, yeah, that would be just fine. If
Okay,
you did.
thank you.
The second one for planning breakdown today is the ability to export container host security logs out to syslog. Again, I'm hoping that this one is relatively straightforward since we've already done the work for WAF and container network policies. So really this would just be adding one more checkbox here. And when it's enabled, we would send all of the container host security logs out to a SIEM, and when it's not, we would not. Again, I know we have lots of technologies that we're using as part of our container host security solution. We're trying to simplify this for the end user. So this would be an on-off switch for everything. So when it's on, then you're sending out Falco logs, AppArmor logs, you know, XYZ other technologies would all be turned on or off with this single switch. Again, any questions on this? Do we feel like we are okay to move this into refinement?
Sam, you may think because I don't have any comments that I wasn't paying attention. It's not the case. I don't have any comments. Looks good to me. But more importantly is how it looks to Tiago and Arthur and Zamir.
I don't have any questions. I think it's straightforward, just needs refinement.
Okay. Great. Well, I will move those two epics into the refinement state. And at that point, I think we should at least have a pretty solid backlog of work that's ready to pick up in 13.4.
Cool. And as an FYI for everyone, I've been sitting on some of this refinement to give Arthur and Zamir a bit of focus on the challenge that they're doing. The intent is to refine them before Sam goes out to his CEO Shadow program. So he's available to answer any questions, which is the 16th, Sam, or 17th?
17th, yep.
Yeah. So from next week, probably I'll start pinging you, Arthur, and Zamir for some refinement, please.
So Vinci and I caught up earlier today. And Vinci was able to make it today, which is great. So we talked about what are the top quality risks from my perspective and how Vinci and her team can help. And where we landed, which is not necessarily the team that I put the notes in here, is performance and reliability of things that are inline, like WAF and CNS. So if something can break the customer's application, that unrelated to security, that's important. Second is user experience with installing and initially configuring components. We had some, Philippe had some experiences with organizing the dog fooding with the operations teams and also with the demo that we talked about earlier. And it's not as easy to install and initially configure as it could be. Some of that's documentation that we need to improve, and some of it is people learning the open source projects we're integrating, which is not really on us necessarily, but you know, maybe pointing people in the right directions. And some of it might be code changes as well to make it simpler. So those are my thoughts. What's everybody else's thoughts? And Sam, you've got the first comment here. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I discussed this with Vinci over a chat earlier last week, but my absolute number one priority is load testing and long running tests, just because I feel like those are the areas that we have the least coverage today, as in basically zero. And it's very hard for our development team to do that kind of testing. It's not an area that we can just ask Zamir or Arthur to come in and help out without significantly taking away from their ability to work on new features. We're just not set up to do that today. You know, real world scenarios that customers have a lot of load that's going through these applications and they're up for a long time. You know, bugs like we had with mod security where we had the memory leak, you know, are the kinds of bugs that terrify me that, you know, we might have introduced or might exist and we're just not aware of them. So, you know, anything that could crash a customer's production environment should be our top priority to make sure that we're running those kinds of tests to prevent that.
What are your thoughts, Vinci? Did I get the notes correct from our previous discussion, and what do you think of Sam's feedback?
Yes, first and foremost, thank you for putting this question up there. So at least now there is one place where we can list out all the pain points from everybody from the entire team. So that's good view for me. And I do agree, yes, performance, reliability, and user experience were three main areas that we discussed in our coffee chat earlier today. And with my conversation with Sam too, there's a main thing that I had too from him that was performance testing, load testing. Were the two main categories that we need to look into. To his point, these are not something that you expect a development team to be able to do it, because most of our testing would happen either as a staging environment or maybe locally on a local dev environment. So you're not going to get the load, you're not going to get any of those challenges unless and until you are trying to build out a performance suite. We do in GitLab have a performance kit, GPK, GitLab Performance Kit, which I believe we are using it to test GitLab.com performance, but I don't think that is used for security purposes, just to see how it's going to impact our performance. So that is something maybe we can try to look into. And if that is and we have a lot of documentation on that too. So maybe we can work together because I do not have any SATs, unfortunately, dedicated to defend, and I don't have anyone to pull into, but maybe we can come up with a plan and a strategy and maybe work out in the future milestones to pair up with the engineer and see if we can implement that. So that's what I am focusing on. Take these bullet points, see what are the ones that are easy ones. For example, the user experience with installing and our configuration components. That is something that I want to try to take a look at it, because I'm fairly new to it. I could go through the documentations and see if I can try it out and provide feedback. Something that I can take up. The second one would be the performance one, GPK. Since we already have it, maybe plan it in the future milestones and maybe have it running in the background. We can look into it. So that way, at least by the time when we get an SCT, hope it's going to be probably 2021. I mean, let's be realistic. At least we have a plan and a backlog of work planned for that person to execute.
Thanks, Minzy. Tiago and Arthur, any thoughts on this topic?
I'll let Arthur go first.
No, I generally agree with what Sam said. There's areas that he mentioned is probably where we can do the list right now, and other stuff like automated testing for dashboards and UI and just the basic unit testing we definitely can handle ourselves. So yeah, I will side with Sam on that.
Cheers, Arthur. No, Vincent, and I think you just having being in touch with you and having the channel open is already being helpful. I just learned about the GPK. I didn't know it existed. If it helps, even better. And the question about K3S that I didn't know who to ask. Now I can ask you. So it's already helpful. And rest assured, we have no expectations that you're gonna go in and deliver everything, because you won't be on you. But thank you.
Diego, don't say we have no expectations. Come on, some expectations.
We have some expectations, but the expectations like you're gonna do the whole framework. So here you go. I've done this for you over the weekend.
I'm kidding. I appreciate that. Yes, thank you.
No, thank you.
All right, that's everything in the agenda.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Have a lovely day, everyone. Bye.